hello, you fucks, to Aetheral Space. 14.16, goodbye guest part 4. I said hello to. Hello to Aetheral Space.
Hello to Aetheral Space, and welcome back.
I'm not saying hello to you little Hellions. You little mites, Sandmites.
Hellions? Is that what we're calling them now?
No,
Sandmites and Hellions?
These are just insults I'm throwing out. You know, keep them on their toes. Because you
what
see a lot of like
these people
content creators be like, "I appreciate you guys. Thank you for commenting and stuff." I
don't
appreciate you guys.
You used to call them your tan lovelies.
Yeah, but then
your little discoverers.
Some quality started coming out that were not so lovely.
What? Which what?
Let's just say that I can't do the Last Supper because I've got a plethora of Judases.
It was betrayed you.
All of
what happened? Does the SCP community despise you now?
In fact.
Well, that was your fault.
I can't say victim blaming as well.
Victim blame, or what can I say? I love to blame the victim. It's their fault they got injured. They should have been stronger.
Whoa! Jesus.
I love the idea of like anime villain who says some horrible shit like that and then gets cancelled in modern era.
Sephiroth.
They're like, what did I say? What did I even say? All their minions just like look at them awkwardly. They're like, I can't work for you. I don't know about this one, boss.
Boss, this isn't your heart.
Boss, look, I was alright with you dominating the world.
He's like a menacing guy, but he's like, please call me, I know this isn't you.
Fucking Eggman's guy in the Sonic movies.
Well, he would just adopt whatever controversial opinion that Eggman had.
No, did you not see Sonic Movie 3?
I did, I've seen them all.
It was so good.
I saw it in cinemas.
I loved it, me too.
I saw 2 in cinemas and 3 in cinemas. And it
ruled. It ruled.
It was so
I
good.
loved it.
I'm astounded by how much better they've gotten per movie, because 1 was... I don't want to be mean, but 1 was...
1 was not good.
Barely above dog shit.
2 I really enjoyed. 3 was like a bang.
2 I enjoyed, but I have to say that wedding subplot was bizarre, and there was too much of it.
Yeah.
And 3 we're down to like 7 minutes of human time, and we need to go lower.
3 also, you're no Maria.
That was fucked up.
That was fucking... That went hard.
I was like, Jesus. I can't tell you though. There was one bit of action that almost sunk the second movie for me. Do you recall this? When Sonic calls that man his father.
Yeah, that was
That's
awkward.
not his dad.
That's not his really dad. I was so relieved in movie 3 when they immediately left the like parents behind or whatever.
I was so worried. He kept pausing in sentences. Sonic when he was talking to him, I was worried he was going to do it again. I was worried he was going to say dad again, and I was not in there for it. I almost bought my head disapprovingly.
I almost bought the Sonic popcorn bucket, but it was $40 but I really wanted to, but I didn't. For what?
All sorts of things.
We're ending this conversation.
It looked like his anus, right? Let's get into
No, what?
14.16 goodbye guests.
Welcome to Aetheral Space, I guess.
Deranged.
No more. I'm reading the chapter. If you haven't clicked off by now, congratulations. This was an experiment.
I don't know
starting the chapter. Many years ago. Was the man
to be honest,
training?
we didn't do the podcast episode this week, so that was all sort of compressed into that first 2 minutes.
All right. Many years ago. Was the man training? Blank couldn't tell. The man made everything he did seem like a dance. As he fought the automatics in the chamber below, they were his partners, not his adversaries. The debris that rained down from his victory was not destruction, but confetti. His laughter echoed off the walls again and again, like countless copies of him were enjoying the moment, a party of one man equaling the jubilation of thousands. So this was a contender. Blank's father had only been too eager to host this man in one of his hotels, and only took eager to get... And only took... Eager? Oh, and only too eager to give him unrestricted use of this training room. After all, it made sense. The clown of the supremacy was known not only for his capriciousness, but his generosity. His absurd generosity, if the stars were right. Yes, it made sense. Everything Blank's father did made sense in that cold metal way. He was a man who saw the world as a series of cells, and he had come to recognize the various shapes the bars took. And yet... Blank brushed their long hair out of their eyes. Blank put a hand against the cold glass as they looked at the dance below. At that moment, twirling in the carnage, Wu Ming seemed the freest man in the world. Blank would. Morgan would. Morgan Noct would very much like to be free like that, too. In the moment before present day. In the moment before Black Dog's ability activated, that old memory drifted through Morgan's mind. The end of life's prologue, a second birthday. Morgan smiled softly, and he kept smiling, even as his image was pulled apart by the dark of the void. Aetheral Space 14.16. Goodbye, guests. Part 4. I was about to say one line at the bottom of the title page. It's really funny. It's part of the title. With a roar of exertion, Rufus pushed Bastardborn forward, and the shield let loose a beam of bright white heat. Murloco's strategy had worked. Using the focused gravity, Rufus had been able to brace himself and withstand the Praetorians' attack, allowing his Aether armament to rise to a truly absurd temperature. To be completely honest, Rufus wasn't sure what would have happened if he hadn't fired the attack immediately. Would his shield even have been able to contain all that energy? He didn't want to find out. More to the point, this wasn't a plan that would work too many times. Even after intercepting just one of those attacks, Rufus's arms felt like they were about to snap off. Intensified gravity or no, it took a hell of a lot of strength to hold on to Bastardborn while it took a blow like that. He had the focus as infusion nearly entirely on his muscles, and so his hands were bright red and burnt. The blast of heat slammed into Praetorian's right arm, still outstretched, and vaporized it up to the elbow. Golden ichor flowed freely from the twitching stump as the angel looked down demurely at its injury. To try and eliminate a messenger of light with its own divine bequeathment! It looked up at them, and every single pupil it had access to shrank in utter odium. Ooh, what's odium mean?
Hatred.
What vile creatures you are! This could not be forgiven. It was one thing to strike an avatar of Her Majesty. It was one thing to attempt to block an avatar of Her Majesty's attack, but to attack that avatar with powers stolen from Her Majesty? That was another matter entirely. Sinful, indolent, unacceptable. A heavenly punishment was due. Praetorian 1 locked its eyes onto the three enemies before it, Atoy Muzazi, Rufus von Frostburn, and Meriloko, and prepared the retribution. It had taken all their strength to block a single attack. The obvious solution was to just hit them with more than a single attack. Bless Pesci, Mind's Knife! Praetorian 1 divided its consciousness for a moment, and each of those mini-minds activated Bless Pesci simultaneously, firing nearly 100 cannonballs of singeing brain matter directly towards the shopping center. Of singing brain matter directly towards the shopping center. In terms of destructive potential, it didn't compare to the light of Judgment 1's feathers could conjure, but a cluster of shots like this was fad beyond Frostburn's ability to judge. Smile. The damned chorus sailed through the air, coming down towards the building like a meteor. The damned chorus sailed through the air, coming down towards the building like a meteor shower, and, unthroned, they were devoured. For an instant, barely a fraction of a second, a gravitational singularity appeared in the sky between Blez Pesci and the shopping center. The majority of the shots were consumed immediately by the void, while the survivors were flung in every direction by the ability's after effects. Pillars of flame erupted throughout the district as the shots came down, punctuated by celestial screams. For a moment, hot anger rushed through Praetorian 1's veins, but only for a moment. It was interrupted, after all. Radiant Almighty! Atoy Muzazi's second attack struck Praetorian 1 in the chest, the devastation caused by the redirected bombing run serving as an effective smokescreen. This time, the attack struck true, a golden gap opening in Praetorian 1's chest, spilling its burning lifeblood down into the streets. The Praetorian seethed as it glared across the district, red aether crackling furiously around it. Foolishness! Red wine manipulation, undisease, a cure for wellness! 3 almighty healing abilities intertwined into perfection. Praetorian 1's missing arm and open wound flickered and shuddered like they were being displayed on a faulty videograph, and between one frame and the next, those injuries vanished. It was as if Praetorian 1 had never been struck at all. Of course, the damage to one's pride was another story. Oh, dear children, had you only never dealt those wounds! You could have died so easily! Ghost Step, World of One, he caused a reflection. The 10 kilometers between Praetorian 1 and the shopping center were nothing. In the blink of an eye, it was upon them, the massive form of the angel unleashing a burst of air pressure like a cannon going off, like 100 cannons going off. The slain thralls that littered the rooftop flew away like scattered leaves, and the living enemies nearly suffered the same fate, if not for that damnable gravity. A field of purple aether kept the 3 irritations fixed in place, and unbelievably, unacceptably, Radiant Almighty! A fly was still biting. With a snarl of frustration, Praetorian 1 slapped the Almighty out of the air before it could even get close. Atoy Muzazi was charging each attack up for less time than the last, and so they were getting progressively weaker, which was perhaps even more infuriating. Did he really think he could take down Her Majesty's messenger with such feeble blows? Praetorian 1's eyes, all of them, flicked around madly and independently, as if searching for his fury's balm. They found it on... Aye! Hell! 1,000 years of bleeding hell! Dignity abandoned for a brief moment, Praetorian 1 descended on the rooftop like a wild beast, slamming its fists down on the building again and again. It's doing the fucking Dark Souls move.
Yeah, it's got a fucking ape shit.
Smoke and rubble flew in all directions. I'm imagining it running around like Guardian Ape on the rooftop. What do you even do?
It's huge. It's one of those boss fights where like you're fighting the top half of him.
You're hitting the hands.
Yeah, they're in a turn-based battle right now. It's like the party.
Smoke and rubble.
Marilyn, Oko, Musashi, and Rufus.
Quick, Rufus, give me another heal. I'm all out of ethers.
They've got like lines, it's like, take this, gravity. Thanks for
Turn-based.
that one.
Aetheral Space video game gets made. Monkey's Paw Crawls. It's a turn-based RPG. No. Dignity
work.
abandoned for a brief moment. Praetorian 1 descended on the rooftop like a wild beast, slamming its fists down on the building again and again. Smoke and rubble flew in all directions as it unleashed its wrath, chunks of metal and glass sticking between the angel's fingers as it punched without end. Within a few seconds, the rooftop was a mangled wedding cake, the impressions of 1's fists firmly embedded in the metalwork. Sorry, hang on. Acid reflux. Sorry. The 3 insects were no longer visible among the wreckage. It didn't matter who you were. Against overwhelming force, even the mightiest human could only choose to be crushed. Thus was the fate of those who... Radiant Almighty! The light fired out of a crack in the rubble and speared right through Praetorian 1's head. A clean hole was scorched out of one of the wings, cleanly erasing an eye. The other one blinked. This time, Praetorian 1's voice was soft and kindly. Corpse. It pulled its arm back once again, ready to dig into the rubble and avenge the insult 1,000-fold. This time, the arm bloomed into a flower of blades, sharp and packed enough to slice even the air to shreds. The angel's momentary calm was broken as it screeched its rage into the bright night. It was just a shame that rage went unspent. There was a flash of orange light as an arrow shot through the night and blasted straight through Praetorian 1's other eye. The being stared silently with an absent gaze. Slowly, it turned its head. Huh? I can't believe I'm doing this, she said. Gretchen Hale sighed as she strode across the rooftop, shaking her head. This building was still quite a ways away from the shopping center, but she could still feel that monster's animosity from here. She understood this was a favor to Balte, but even so, weren't there limits to how big a favor he could call in? Well, apparently not.
Oh, sorry about that. We the power exploded.
Alright, let me see if I can remember where we were. I think...
So we're going to jump back to, I can't believe I'm doing
Perfect.
this, she said.
I can't believe I'm doing this, she said. Gretchen Hale sighed as she strode across the rooftop, shaking her head. This building was still quite a ways away from the shopping center, but she could still feel that monster's animosity from here. She understood this was a favor to Balte, but even so, weren't there limits to how big a favor he could call in? Well, apparently not. Hey, she said to the one next to her, looks like the eyes don't actually matter. Go for the neck next time. It nodded. There was no real need for it to, but Gretchen had thought it best to program in such a rapport. Otherwise, it was just creepy. There were probably some sickos out there who enjoyed having puppets just follow orders, but that had never been Gretchen's preference. By the way, so I was mentioning before the power outage that, you know, in evolution there's this idea that, like, some things tend to evolve towards being a crab. Like carcinization. I feel like in Aether, it's like Aether users eventually evolve into just being summoners. I feel like we've seen it a lot recently. It's just like the final form. It's the natural conclusion.
Well, she hasn't really... These are her Ifram and stuff.
Yeah, but we have the Guardian entities making a comeback. We have Black Dog and the dogs. We have remote work. We have the Praetorians. I feel like everyone, it comes down to summons in the end. That's just how you make it in this world. Who's the...
Gemini God.
Who's the strongest summoner?
Henry Lutton.
That's right. We talked about that last time, too.
Yeah.
So, the 16 knights around...
Well, I don't know if he's the strongest summoner. He's got the strongest
Yeah,
summons.
he's got, like, Gale, which, like, puts him really over par.
That alone just makes him, like, OP.
How the fuck did he even get Gale? How did he manage that?
I don't want to go into the details, so I might want to do it somewhere else sometime.
So the 16 knights around Gretchen lounged and stood straight, stood ready and relaxed, exhibited distinct personas through their body language. Some held swords and spears, some held bows and rifles, but without exception, each and every one of them was wielding one of Gretchen's beloved aether armaments. Of course, calling them knights wasn't quite accurate, either. After all, these were just suits of empty armor, the Silver Saint prototypes. Well, if I'm going to be a commander, I might as well act the part. Standing with her legs wide apart, Gretchen planted one hand against her hip and pointed the other, straight and firm as an arrow, at the distant enemy. "Troops!" she barked. "Advance!" Black Dog giggled. Maybe I went a little too hard. Needless to say, nothing remained of Morgan Noct. Everything within Black Hole's restrained area had been completely erased. In fact, the only thing keeping the building from collapsing entirely was the web of black strings that had been erected. Strings. Most of the time, this stuff came out all jagged like sparks, but when you really got the hang of it... Is he implying that the strings are not strings, but he's, like, concentrated aether? Is that what that is? That's what he means by jagged like sparks, right? Yeah. So is that why Wu Ming's so cracked? Because he simply has understood?
He gets it.
Oh my god. String theory? It doesn't have to be string-related at all. Multicolored aether flashed as Black Dog's form fully stabilized. He had finally finished processing all the information he'd absorbed from Wu Ming. This, he knew, was his final form, a monochrome copy of Wu Ming himself, with chalk-white skin and jet-black hair. So wait, he has rainbow aether now?
Yeah.
So do you just get...
But it's like the spooky colours.
Do you just get rainbow aether when you understand the truth of this world? Is that how it works?
I know, it's because he's absorbed Wu Ming's information, so he's got, taken on similarities to him.
Oh no. This, he knew, was his final form. With the slightest effort, he willed his hair to grow out, wrapping around his body as a cloak and pooling on the floor like a shadow. He couldn't look cool if he was naked, after all. The Black Dog turned, striding over Nail Mandarin's unconscious, or perhaps dead, but who really cared, body. The careful application of a foot was very effective in forcing that ugly mug further down into the ground. "Wow," he said to the trash, looking out through the shattered wall. "Things have gotten pretty crazy out there, huh?" Seriously, what the hell was going on? He was sure it had been nighttime when they'd started fighting, and now everything was flooded in white light. White light with red dots all over it, angled oddly. Something physical rather than an effect painted over the sky. A dome over the district? Some kind of ability? Black Dog snapped his fingers, creating a lens of black strings to peer through. "Oh, I see, he mused, looking at the giant of light on the horizon. "The Hive of Malkuth, huh? It looks like that guy's advanced pretty far himself." He grinned with sharpened canines. No pun intended. What a spread! How am I supposed to resist?" Just by fighting for a few minutes, Black Dog had been able to acquire Wu Ming's talent for battle and his unrivaled aether development. What could he take from the Hive of Malkuth? What forbidden fruit could he snatch from the hands of that angel? He wanted more. He could smell a Kalima, too. He could sense her scurrying about through the ruins of the district. As a vengeance ability, he was aware of her location at all times, but that was exactly why he wouldn't go after her anymore. If a Kalima died, then the vengeance would be fulfilled, and there was every chance that would cause Black Dog to disappear. He couldn't have that. He had learnt the joy of battle now, the utter bliss of tearing through meat and sinew and licking the despair from the eyeballs of your adversary. No, he would remain in this world. He would remain as a curse upon all mankind. Black Dog stepped forward, mouth wide open, tongue lashing at the air, and saliva spraying from his mouth as he salivated, only for something else, something red to spray from his mouth as well. His eyes flicked down to the blood on the floor. "You've come to love, huh?" It is a part of you now.
Huh. I love her. I've always loved her.
"I guess you were right," said a hoarse voice from behind him. "You really are a perfect replica." Black Dog forced his head over his shoulder, glaring behind him. He glared at the arrow of smoke that had pierced through his back. He glared at the chain of fog that ran out into the darkness. He glared at the young man who held the end of that chain in one hand, and in the other the bow he'd used to fire it. Morgan knocked. "My teacher's a cocky bastard, too," the brat smirked. "How?" Black Dog began, only for his eyes to snap wide open as he realized the trick that Morgan had pulled. Those words, those last words of his. Bastard, bastard, just, I-A-J. Well played. But I love that though because it implies he pronounced them funny.
He was just spitting noises.
Black Dog ground his teeth. Over the course of his fight with Morgan Noct, he'd acquired some knowledge of this brat's worthless abilities. Inside, amplified jape. I see, Black Dog sneered. You used an amplified inside to escape to the next room over, and used a jape to leave a fake behind. That's what I destroyed, right? You're still a failure, though. 2 out of 10, and you're lucky to get that much. A failure? Morgan raised a wavering eyebrow. I'm surprised you can still talk so big. You managed to survive, Black Dog waved a dismissive hand. If you kept quiet, you might have even lived a long life. But you go and throw it away for a flesh wound? Yeah, 2 out of 10. You didn't let me finish, Morgan said. I'm surprised you can still talk so big. The music kicks in here, by the way. Since you're about to die. F! The fog that Morgan had scattered throughout the building poured back in, flowing towards the arrow embedded in the Black Dog's chest. A! He had amplified it and strengthened it. C! He had sharpened it and compressed it. I! With a thought, he sent the gathered smoke inside the hollow arrow, filling it until it was close to bursting. You think this is the coup de grace? Black Dog chuckled. My guardian entity is still in effect, fool. And even if it wasn't, the monster reached to pull the arrow out, but as it did, metal strings lashed out of the darkness and wrapped around its arms, binding them tight behind its back. That, at least, finally seemed to get the seriousness of the situation across. The Black Dog's eyes widened in alarm, and it bared its teeth as it looked down at Manrin's body. The King of Killers had only one eye barely open, and his lips barely forced into a smirk. Get fucked, he gasped. So what? Roared the Black Dog, pulling at its bindings. It would surely only take a few seconds to break free. You already know your ability won't work. All this is doing is buying time, and it's a 0 out of 10 exchange rate. Don't imagine some incompetent brat can... The thing is, Morgan smiled, I'm a copycat too. K! That redirection doesn't work on you, does it? L! These next words aren't actually necessary, but Morgan Noct opened his mouth and screamed, Radiance Almighty! Light exploded from within the Black Dog's body, overwhelming it in a moment. It finally broke through the metal strings, but all it could do with that freedom was spread its arms wide as it screamed. A shining glow burst from its mouth and eyes as the light raged through its body, its fingernails popping off one by one, and cracks forming over its skin as the almighty radiance sought any possible exit. The scream became a howl, and the man became a dog. Writhing in the divine glow, the Black Dog lurched towards Morgan, desperate to close the distance and end his life. Did it think that killing Morgan would deactivate the ability, or did it simply want to finish him off out of spite? It no longer had the words to say. Its shape distorted and degenerated as it advanced. Countless limbs and faces sprouted from the beast's mass as it dragged itself across the floor. Wu Ming's face, Nell Manrin's face, even Morgan Noct's face, all of them distorted by fury and agony. For a moment it looked like it would finally collapse, but no, it was just preparing itself for the final push. With an audible screech of aether, the body of the Black Dog became a massive hound once more, stretching across the room and rushing towards Morgan, jaw open and ready to bite down on his throat, even as light bled out from between its fangs. This abomination would last only seconds more, 3 seconds at the most, but Morgan couldn't move. Could he survive those 3 seconds? 1! The dog bounded forth. 2! The jaw stretched forth. 3! And a subtle, nearly invisible string severed the beast's head before it could make contact. The body vanished first, evaporating in the aurora of light that bloomed from its core. For a second the head remained, still flying through the air, a single white eye still fixed on Morgan's face. Slowly, just before the head fell, that eye closed. Morgan didn't know Morgan didn't know whether what happened next was a result of Wu Ming's essence that the monster had absorbed, or whether it was something it did of its own volition. But in the last moments of the Black Dog's existence, it opened its mouth and spoke. Not bad, kid. Light flared and wiped away the shadows. 10 out of 10. Ooh. Ooh. What do you even do about that? Get fucked, I guess.
About what? Which part?
Black Dog owned. Black Dog forever BTFO'd.
He was a contender. It took 3 guys.
Are the dishes done? Booming asked Morgan. Black Dog! Morgan shouted back. Booming's...
You're talking about the fraud of his supremacy? He got his ass kicked first. Like, Morgan, save me!
Morgan, Sama, save me! The fucking Sanji edit.
Yeah. Aetheral slander.
I love Aetheral slander. But enough of that. We have something bigger to do here. We have questions, don't we? And
Who would you say is the biggest fraud in Aetheral Space?
That to me would probably be, well, it depends, right? Because there's like people that talk a big game like Samael, but I don't think he's actually a fraud because we know what he is. I think the biggest fraud of Aetheral Space is Eli Macedora because he's supposed to be the king of killers, but every fight he's in, he gets washed.
I have to admit,
he's a bit of a fraud.
Unfortunately, but to be honest, this is perhaps an emphasis of my. I do fear that the King of Killers title is itself fraudulent.
It really is because there's always a bigger fucking fish.
No, I just mean that Nail is also somewhat of a
No,
fraud.
I agree, yeah. Nails on fraud was.
So whoever gets the title. I mean, like, he saved... I think I was, like, worried, because he immediately gets his ass kicked in this fight. I was like, I don't want to, like, make him, like, look pathetic.
Too late. The curse of having the King of Killers title.
He saved the day.
Everyone with a king title is a fraud, right? Because the guy in Arc 8, the, like, what makes a king a king? Fraud. King of Nails from fucking Cadman's backstory? Fraud. If king is in your title, it just means you suck. It just means you're a jobber posing.
People call Samuel... I can't imagine you called Samuel a fraud. Man literally came back from the dead.
I mean, he didn't come back from the dead. Someone's, like, puppeting his, like, consciousness for their own purposes.
No, he came back with his own individual strength.
that just shows how strong he is.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have Aetheral question.
He simply paid off the Reaper.
Oh, my God. All right. Rumor asks, whose Dawn contest did Damon participate in? I guess, like, which Supreme died for that?
For that? It's funny you should ask. Obviously, that was Boris the Berserker.
Not to be confused with Ragnar the Redeemer, who was also a Berserker.
No. Hold on, no one ever said Ragnar was a Berserker.
Yeah, you said he had a big strength axe.
Yeah, it doesn't mean he's a Berserker.
I mean, his name's Ragnar. I don't know.
Expand, elaborate. What do you mean by
Ragnar is like a Viking name, is it not?
Because he's Norwegian, you think he's, like, insane?
What?
Interesting.
Didn't he literally kill the guy because he tried to make the world a better place?
I don't know, you've never met him.
It's like, okay. Anyway, Rockshark asks, I think we already have this answer, but Rockshark asks, how old is Musashi?
But Boris the Berserker was a guy, his whole thing is he had like a symbiotic armor, sort of Venom style, and he used, like, it had an Aether ability, and he also had an Aether ability, and they were like a team, a duo Supreme, essentially.
Was it romantic or camaraderie, or was it purely like business?
They were comrades.
Nice. Rockshark asks how...
It was like Venom. It was like the Venom movies.
So romantic, then.
Yeah, he was sort of like a pathetic Blimbo, and then he got the armor.
Rockshark asks, how old is Musashi? And while we're at the age of the rest of the 8 phases.
Jesus.
I don't think any of them are older than 30.
It's...
You mentioned Musashi's like in his mid-30s or some shit.
Oh, Marcus is definitely older than 30, otherwise things get questionable.
Marcus is like, what, 40? 50?
Yeah.
I know Ash is like biologically 100, but like actually 30 or some shit.
Yeah.
Morgan's like, what, 20?
Yeah, he's in his 20s.
Mid, late, early?
And similar Gregory, but a little bit older.
Gotcha. Is Morgan like a late 20s or an early 20s?
Early 20s.
Interesting. All right. JTKC... switching to... Okay. Lan asks, after Ruth's enhancement, is she the same strength or stronger than a full-blooded Pugnant now?
I would say she's probably stronger than, like... well, it depends. A full-blooded Pugnant, if we take it just in terms of strength, and like a base one without any special abilities or anything, no uniqueness of an individual, they're stronger.
Interesting. Rurum asks, have there been any openly non-cishet Supremes? If so, tell us about them. And was there any great outrage?
Renee the Raven was a girl kisser. What the weirdest way I can fucking phrase that. But I don't want to like lock in character traits like on a whim in the question parts. But so there were, but I don't have any specifics to tell you either way on the existing ones yet. But I probably will at some point tell you.
Nice.
But Renee
nice.
the Raven definitely.
Nice.
Definitely, and it wasn't Soul.
Wiser Than You asks, how did Dragon get the Serpent of Pesh working for him? I don't even know who that is.
That's a minister in the body. He reached out to him after the Elysian Field. Well, not immediately after, but once he'd managed to get some influence and some stuff together, like resources, he sort of sold him on the "I will be supreme and you will get the good stuff."
Lan asks, who was the chillest Gene Tyrant besides Marie?
Chillest Granba was pretty chill.
Granba?
Oh, not sorry. I thought you said supreme. Sorry.
Gene Tyrant.
Yeah, sorry.
Who was one of
I revealed it. All the Supremes are actually Gene Tyrants. I spoiled the twist.
Do you have a chill Gene Tyrant in your head?
Chillest Gene Tyrant. Well, when we say chill, what do we mean by that?
Presumably, like, nice, not a fascist piece of shit.
Okay, well,
I'd assume there weren't many of them.
Well, yeah, the society itself exhibited those traits and designed for those traits.
Yeah. Well, who was the chillest then? Who was the least problematic Gene Tyrant?
Oh, Jesus.
You know what? We'll pass this one. Lan asks, what was the capital of the Gene nobility?
That will be you'll find out more about that in a future arc, is all I'll say.
Yay. Lan asks, what was the capital of the Gene nobility?
Let me think about it, actually. 1 second. What arc are we in? 14?
Mm-hmm.
Let me do some counting.
The counter.
You'll find out this in arc 17.
Jesus Christ. Now I'm all excited. Alright, and what was the capital of the Gene nobility?
Let me do some counting. I counted to 3. The capital? Well, it was Azumha, but it was called Azum back then.
Why'd they add a ha?
Because it was like the victory.
Ha-ha!
Like, it's not yours anymore, it's
It's
ours.
Azum ha!
Sure. If you like. We'll make it a world of laughter.
We'll call it. Wait, what's the thing they call it in One Piece? Laughy, laugh end.
Laugh tail.
Yeah, laugh tail. Azum ha!
I finally found Azaz's treasure. I laughed.
All right.
Oh, as if only we lived in the same era.
Well, I think that's everything. We're all caught up. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.